Hey there guys, I hope you're all doing very well. Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be talking about Wuchang Fallen Feathers. So I feel like 2025 has been a good year to be a Souls-like fan. There's been various Souls-like games that have been coming out. We've had First Berserker Kazan, the Lies of P Overture DLC, which in my opinion I have played and they are very, very good. And you also had Elden Ring Night Reign, which I haven't played because it's not really a game really targeted for me, being a co-op roguelike style game. It just didn't appeal to me, even though I love Elden Ring itself. So this year's been a very good year for Souls-like games to come out, and now the most recent release is Wuchang Fallen Feathers. Now this game has been out for about 3 weeks, I believe. It came out at the end of July, so it's been out for quite a bit. And very recently I have completed it. It took me about at least a good between 20 to 30 hours to beat, and I can safely say Wuchang Fallen Feathers is very, very good. Now the game itself is very clearly a Souls-like game, and it's very clear because there are many decisions that you have to make throughout the game to get to the right ending, or choose the right ending that you get, essentially. So really the main story of Wuchang, like getting into its main premise, is that you play the main character Wuchang, who basically awakens, and she awakens with a mysterious feathering disease. And the feathering disease basically embowels most of his victims to become monstrous beings. And Wuchang comes across many of the people who have been infested by this disease, like many characters that she comes up against, as well as bosses. And essentially, it's more of a progression of Wuchang trying to find a cure for it. So that's kind of where the main premise in the story lies, and it's really down to your playstyle, like how you progress throughout the game to pick the right ending, and the NPCs you encounter throughout the game. Now, there are a lot of NPCs throughout the game, and the world is very big. There is a lot of exploration that you will do throughout the game. There are many paths that you will take, and they're all interconnected, which is fine. But sometimes throughout the game, going through many of the paths, like sometimes it will feel like you're kind of going around in a very tedious chore to try and find the right way throughout the game. And sometimes you will sort of, I wouldn't say end up getting lost, but you're kind of just getting a little bit tired just trying to go throughout most of the open world and most of the paths. Now, Wuchang Fallen Feathers is a pretty hard game, but I think it takes a lot of perseverance and lots of practice to really try and master its combat. So, Wuchang Fallen Feathers utilizes a combat system that allows you to have different classes of weapons, but also you can use its magic and spells, and also something throughout the game that you build is called Skyborn Might. So Skyborn Might is something that you build where you would do trying to perfect a perfect dodge, or having a certain weapon of class that you would use. For me, I use the longsword, so if I get 2 hits with a longsword, I'll build up a Skyborn Might. And essentially the Skyborn Might will make your attacks more stronger. It also allows you to become more agile in certain movements as well. And essentially perfecting that would make encountering enemies more forgiving, I would say. And enemies can be tough, especially certain bosses. Like sometimes when you come across with certain bosses, there's very little chance of having an opening encounter. Like sometimes you would be doing a lot of dodging and lots of dodging throughout the game where you're trying to find an encounter to punish. And there are various ways that you would approach bosses, such as building up a stagger window, which allows you to stagger the enemy, or you could go for a back attack punishing encounter where it will just stagger the enemy quickly. And you kind of got to make use of its moves and make use of recognizing certain patterns of the enemy's attacks. And the difficulty is definitely challenging, because even certain bosses, they will increase its difficulty the more you progress. Like certain times, there will be certain bosses will have another phase, or throughout the game where a boss would have half his health, it would also have more challenging sort of level of difficulty, and it can be pretty tough. Like even certain times throughout Wuchang Fallen Feathers, like even if my character got down, trying to get back up, the bosses and enemies will still punish, and there isn't really like a like an iframe where you can avoid that. If they punish whilst you're down, effectively they can still attack and punish you, which sometimes could lead to frustrations and probably death throughout the game. So while I have experienced frustration throughout this game, but I do think the challenge and the difficulty, especially kind of learning how using certain weapons throughout the game. Also, this game makes very good use of its skill tree and weapon disciplines as well, and ways to use those sort of features will help complement this game to make it a little bit more forgiving. This is kind of where I want to touch on the skill tree, because this is a very different skill tree from most Souls-like games. So you have like a skill window where you would have your skill tree for all its different class of weapons, but also a more general skill tree, such as mostly trying to build up, say your health as well. So you can have a more general skill tree where you can increase your health, which is called a mana vase, as well as its potency as well. Some of the skill trees will have its own class as well, where you can have your typical upgrades from Souls-like games, such as increasing your health, increasing your endurance, your agility, your strength, etc. But then also you can use it to unlock certain disciplines and also increase the level of your weapons class. And the cool thing is, when you increase the level of your weapon class, it transfers to the other weapons as well. So if you increase your the level of your longswords, if you choose to use another longsword, it would have that same sort of level. It won't change. And I think a lot of that is very unique and cool. I also will say, throughout the game, most of the bosses and enemies I encounter, there is a lot of variety when it comes to it. And I would say a lot of the bosses as well, whilst frustrating, getting more into the grips of the game did make it a little bit more forgiving, trying to understand its attacks, basically. Now, whilst I do speak very positively about Wuchang Fallen Feathers, I will say my only real setback for this game is sometimes its performance. Now, I have heard on PC the performance of Wuchang Fallen Feathers is not really in a good playable state. Now, my experience on Xbox Series X was playable, but I have experienced certain frame stutters from certain locations throughout the game, some sort of frame slowdowns, and also at times I have experienced 2 crashes. So this game itself does have its own sort of technical performance issues throughout the game, which is a bit of a shame, because I really do think this game is a very fun game, and it's really a game that you probably will spend a lot of hours trying to build up a story, trying to go through a lot of the quest lines with many of the NPCs you encounter, and really try and go through most of its interconnected level design and mysteries throughout the game. And I think it's a bit of a shame that the developers, Lindsay, didn't focus on the technical performance of the game. But overall, I've enjoyed Wuchang Fallen Feathers. I've really got not really much complaints about the game at all, apart from maybe its performance. But it has certainly become a good year for people who want to enjoy Souls-like games. I don't know whether this is going to be a phase where people will start to be very tired, if there's going to be more Souls-like games going to be coming out, or if this is going to be like the norm for a lot of game developers to make a Souls-like game, because it seems to be a genre that a lot of people really like. I've got no idea, but I think certainly this year there's been some very good high-quality Souls-like games. I mean, first Berserker Kazan, the Lies of P DLC, Elden Ring Night Reign, even though I haven't played it myself, and now Wuchang Fallen Feathers, I would say arguably it's been pretty good. So yeah, that's pretty much my take on Wuchang Fallen Feathers. Let me know what you think of this game, if you've played it or not. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you want to dislike. Thank you for watching, and yeah, that's about it. See you later.